In this video lecture, we will go through applications of Coleridge's law. In the previous video lecture, when we have understood how molar conductance varies with concentration of electrolytes, then we found that at infinite dilution, weak electrolyte, we took example of acetic acid. There were two things with acetic acid at infinite dilution. Since we know that weak electrolytes are feebly dissociated, are feebly ionized, right? By feebly ionized, we mean that acetic acid, being a weak electrolyte, right, will undergo this reversible reaction in which acetate and hydrogen ions will combine back to give acetic acid. That means solution of weak electrolytes contains molecules as well as ions, due to which their conductivity is less compared to strong electrolytes which contains only ions, right? Since weak electrolytes contains less ions, then at infinite dilution the ions are less, like compared to volume of solution, right? Because at infinite dilution, what we are doing is we are adding more solvent, right? For example, we are adding more and more water to acetic acid, right? So initially we saw that when we added water to acetic acid, the conductivity of acetic acid increased in the graph that we studied in previous lecture, because initially on adding water, the ionization of acetic acid increased, right, which resulted into more ions, thereby increasing the conductance of acetic acid, molar conductance of acetic acid. Then at one point, when the dilution was increased, when more water was added, the volume of water added, right, when we compared the volume of water added with the number of ions that were formed, the number of ions were found to be too less, right, in comparison to the volume that was increased. That means now there are less ions in more volume, right? Less ions in more volume means that the ions are so less that their conductivity is very low, and when the conductivity is very low, right, or the number of ions are very less, right, so it's very difficult to measure the conductivity due to those less number of ions, right? So conductivity of acetic acid could not be measured, right, at infinite dilution because of less number of ions, or this acetic acid is not completely dissociated. It always exists as ions as well as molecules because of this reversible reaction, right? And if you remember, we have seen in graph, I'll just show you this quickly, that this was the kind of graph, right, where this conductivity initially increased, then it went like this parallel to y-axis, right? So from this graph also we can see that experimentally the molar conductance of acetic acid cannot be determined because this graph is going parallel to y-axis. So this cannot be extrapolated to y-axis at zero concentration here, right? So experimentally we concluded that for acetic acid, which is a weak electrolyte, molar conductance cannot be measured, right? So this issue was solved by Coleridge's, right? And we know that as per Coleridge's law, the molar conductance at infinite dilution of any electrolyte, say CH3COOK, would be equal to the sum of ionic conductance of ions at infinite dilution. So here we will say ionic conductance of acetate ions at zero concentration or infinite dilution, and molar conductance of positive potassium ions at zero concentration, right? And we know that at infinite dilution, as per Coleridge's law, these ions are migrating independent of one another, right? The motion of acetate ions are not affected by potassium ions, and the motion of potassium ions is not affected by acetate ions. This is as per Coleridge's law. So now we will use this law to calculate the molar conductance of weak electrolytes like acetic acid, right? So before this, let's just quickly recall. We have understood that Coleridge did this experimental studies where he took the pair of electrolytes, right, and found that the difference in the molar conductivities of these electrolytes, right, containing common anion was found to be same, right? Here the anion is chloride, here the anion is bromide, right? So in this case, the first case, the difference in molar conductivities is same. Here the difference in molar conductivities is same, although we have a different anion in the second case there, right? So this experimental studies, right, made him to conclude that the motion of potassium and sodium ions in the first case, right, is same as the motion of potassium and sodium in the second case, right, and is not, the motion of potassium and sodium ions does not depend on the associated anion, which is chloride in the first case, bromide in the second case, right? So it looks like chloride and the potassium and sodium ion are moving independent of associated anion, right? So the motion of potassium and sodium does not depend on chloride or bromide at infinite dilution. This is applicable only at infinite dilution. So here in the first case, it looks like this is the difference between ionic conductance of sodium and potassium, right, ions, and here also it is the difference in ionic conductance of sodium and potassium ions, right? So we will use this, right, conclusion to calculate the molar conductance of weak electrolytes, right? Because as per Coleridge's law, this is the law where it states that molar conductance is equal to the sum of ionic conductances, and these ions are moving independent of one another, right? So if you want to calculate the molar conductance of acetic acid, it would be ionic conductance of acetate ion at 0 concentration plus ionic conductance of hydrogen ions at 0 concentration, right? So if we get the value of this and this, right, from some other electrolyte, right, we can put the values of ionic conductance for acetate ions and hydrogen ions here, and we will get the value of molar conductance of acetic acid, right? So if we take electrolytes, say for example, we will take potassium or sodium acetate, right? Then we will take sodium chloride, then we will take HCl, right? If we talk about this, the molar conductance of sodium acetate would be at infinite dilution, it would be ionic conductance of acetate ion, right, plus ionic conductance of sodium ion at 0 concentration. For HCl, it would be at infinite dilution. For HCl, it would be ionic conductance of hydrogen ions plus ionic conductance of chloride ions, right? Similarly, for sodium chloride, it would be ionic conductance of sodium ion plus ionic conductance of chloride ion at 0 concentration, right? So now we want to calculate this, right, from all these three, because we said, because just understand, in case of acetic acid, we cannot calculate the value of ionic conductance of acetate ions and ionic conductance of hydrogen ions, because the concentration or the number of acetate and hydrogen ions are too less, right, in the solution of acetic acid at infinite dilution. They are too less that their conductivity cannot be measured, right? And if we get the ionic conductance of acetate ions, say from some other electrolyte, right, and ionic conductance of hydrogen ions from some other electrolyte, right, so we can get the value of molar conductance of acetic acid. Why I said that we can get the value of acetate ions, why I said that we can get the ionic conductance of acetate ions from some other electrolyte, because as per Coleruch's law, at infinite dilution, the motion or the movement or the mobility of ions is independent of one another, right? So if I get the value of acetate ions from here, right, from sodium acetate, I can substitute this value here, right, because in this case, if I take this, the molar conductance of sodium acetate at zero concentration or at infinite dilution, the motion of acetate ions does not depend on sodium ions, right? So here also the motion of acetate ions is not dependent of hydrogen ions, right? Since the motion of acetate ions doesn't depend on the counter ion, the other ion, so doesn't matter acetate ion, doesn't matter we are calculating the ionic conductance of acetate ions in case of acetic acid or in case of sodium acetate at infinite dilution, it would be same, right? Since sodium acetate is a strong electrolyte, we can calculate the ionic conductance of acetate ions using sodium acetate, right? Because we can calculate the value of strong electrolytes using these experimental studies, right? So now let's see, it would be this plus this minus this, right? I'll just show you over here. This is ionic conductance of acetate ion plus sodium ion plus ionic conductance of hydrogen ions, ionic conductance of chloride ion minus ionic conductance of sodium ion minus ionic conductance of chloride ions. This we can write this as also molar conductance at zero concentration for CH3COONA plus for HCl minus for sodium chloride, right? Using the values of molar conductance of these three electrolytes, we will get the value of molar conductance of acetic acid, right, which is this, right? So this is how, using strong electrolytes, we can calculate the molar conductance of weak electrolytes, right? Because weak electrolytes molar conductance cannot be determined experimentally, right? So we use Coleruch's law to determine the value of molar conductance of weak electrolytes, right? So the second application for Coleruch's law is in determining the degree of dissociation, right? So now let's see how we can find the degree of dissociation, right? Now degree of dissociation is, if we just look at degree of dissociation, normally what is the formula? Number of ions present, right? Say at concentration, since we are dealing with concentration and dilution, so here we will write it as at concentration C, right? divided by total number of ions, we say. So here it would be number of ions, maximum ions, total number, because we write normally the formula for degree of dissociation is number of ions dissociated divided by total number of ions, right? So here we will write it as number of ions present at concentration C, that is number of ions dissociated at concentration C divided by total number of ions. Total number of ions means when the electrolyte would be completely dissociated, right? So number of ions, and when the electrolyte would be completely dissociated at infinite dilution, right? So number of ions at infinite dilution, right? So number of ions at concentration C, right? So what do we call to number of ions at concentration C? It would be, we can write it as molar conductance at concentration C, right? Molar conductance at concentration C, and this number of ions at infinite dilution, it would be molar conductance at infinite dilution, right? So this is your degree of dissociation in terms of molar conductance. This is the formula for degree of dissociation in terms of molar conductance. I'll repeat this. Since the formula of degree of dissociation is number of ions dissociated divided by the number of ions at infinite dilution. Why I use number of ions at infinite dilution? Because in this formula we put in the denominator we have total number of ions. So total number of ions, the electrolyte would be completely dissociated at infinite dilution, right? I'll just write it over here. The normal formula is ions dissociated divided by total number of ions. Total number of ions. Total number of ions will get when the electrolyte would be completely dissociated. So the electrolyte would be completely dissociated at infinite dilution. So in place of this, we can write it as infinite dilution, number of ions at infinite dilution. And ions dissociated, right, would be number of ions dissociated at concentration C, right? So number of ions dissociated at concentration C, right, the conductance would be, the molar conductance would be represented by this lambda C, and at infinite dilution it would be lambda infinite, right? So this is your degree of dissociation in terms of molar conductance, right? I hope all this is clear to you. Thanks.